Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, especially if you love college football as much as I do. Okay, today we're going to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia brings back most of their team, actually, including quarterback Carson Beck. I was impressed with how he played last year. He's a really good football player. Um, they start the season off with Clemson and Atlanta. People are saying Clemson's going to get blown out. I don't think so. Clemson, really, recruiting-wise, they have not really recruited differently than they have even before NIL. Um, Clemson's bringing back most of that team from last year. Now, I do agree Clemson has been on a decline. They have struggled. Part of it is because they just haven't had the same quarterback like Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson. I think any team would struggle once they lose somebody like that. I mean, that's just normal. I think Clemson's defense will give Georgia's offense a lot of problems. In the games that I saw Georgia play, the only two defenses that were that good were maybe Auburn's at Auburn and then Alabama in the SEC Championship. Both times they struggled. And people make a lot of excuses about Georgia not having Brock Bowers healthy, Lad McConkey, or whatever it was. But when you are an elite program like Georgia, you're supposed to have players. That shouldn't matter, you know. I do believe the turnover battle will be won by Georgia, and that will help Georgia pull away with a big win over Clemson, 24-17. They might beat him by 2 touchdowns. I think that's the spread, right? 13.5, 14-point favorites. I just don't think it'll be that bad. You know, I know Clemson has had problems, but not because they're not good. Their players aren't very good. I also think a part of it is because Dabo Swinney's been kind of content and kind of basking in what he's done in the past. Because you remember when that caller called in and talked trash, basically told him he shouldn't be making that much to be losing games every year. He kind of told, well, I've done this and I've done it. Well, that doesn't matter. I agree. So I think Dabo Swinney will be fired up. He'll be ready to go to have his team ready to go. But Cade Clubb is I think he'll play better than what he has with turnovers, but just not to the point where they can upset a team like Georgia. So, yeah. Tennessee Tech, and then they go to Kentucky. Tennessee Tech, 51-10, something like that. Wouldn't surprise me. Kentucky is usually a tough place to play, especially at night. But Kentucky does not have the athletes to upset somebody like Georgia. Give me Kentucky to lose. Georgia 37, Kentucky 20. It could be a little closer, could be a little uglier than that. Might be a great game. It's usually a tough game when Georgia goes over there and has to play them. Kentucky's a tough physical team, so anytime you have a team like that, like the Utahs, you know, someone who doesn't have great athletes like the 5 stars, but they can play with just about anybody and give anybody a hard time, that's about what they are, but Utah's better than Kentucky. Then they go to Alabama. No Nick Saban? No problem. I believe Alabama will take a big step back with hiring Kalen DeBoer with that defensive coordinator that he has. Alabama lost a lot of players. Milrow's a good player, but I think he's gonna go take a step back because Nick Saban was the GOAT, and even though DeBoer's younger and all that, I don't think he's gonna match Nick Saban in terms of success. Give me Georgia 38-16. They get a lot of payback after all these close games. And then they take on Auburn at home. And by this point of the season, if you've already seen my Auburn video, I think Auburn's undefeated. They might be a top 15, maybe even top 10 team by the time these guys play. This game's in Georgia. This will be a tough game. Auburn recruited pretty good this past year, and Hugh Freeze is an excellent coach, and he hit the transfer portal pretty hard. He went and got a bunch of receivers, some more offensive and defensive linemen, so the line of scrimmage will be a lot better. Auburn gave him a hard time last year, but a lot of that was because it was at Auburn. And if Auburn's any remotely good, anytime they host a big-time team like Georgia or Alabama or anybody else, if they're remotely good, it's usually a great game. I don't think it'll be as good. And again, I think Auburn's going to be better than last year. But because Georgia is hosting Auburn, they won't have that atmosphere to help them out. So give me Georgia to pull away 31-14. My guess is Auburn will be in that game the whole time, but Georgia will score a late touchdown and pull away. It'll be closer than what that score says. But I think Auburn's still not better than Georgia. Coming from an Auburn fan. And then they take on Mississippi State at home. That should be no problem. I think Levy might be a good coach, but we don't know. He's never been a head coach. So 38-6 would be a fair score. And then they go to Texas. Texas is a potential loss for them, but I have them beating Texas because I believe Georgia is still better than Texas. I believe Kirby Smart is better than Sarkisian. But I have them winning at Texas 27-21. This could be a loss for Georgia because Texas does have a good defensive front every year. The only thing that hurt them was their pass defense, and until I see it get fixed, I believe that will hurt them in this game with Georgia with Carson Beck. So I have to pick Georgia. Then they take on the Gators, and then they go to Ole Miss. Florida, you already know how I feel about Billy Napier. That's a big win for Georgia, 55-21. At Ole Miss, this game will be a lot more competitive than what it was this past year. I do think Lane Kiffin's a great coach. I believe he's doing an outstanding job with Ole Miss, but I still think Georgia is better, and I'm still not sold out on Ole Miss's defense. Giving up 50-something points, whatever it was, to Georgia this past year, that ain't it. I don't care what your defense. And yeah, they held Penn State to 25 points, a garbage time touchdown, but Penn State's quarterback, Drew Allar, he struggled a lot. That really wasn't impressive to me. I thought, and I did pick Penn State because of the defense, but, you know, SEC usually beats the Big Ten. So, yeah. And then these are their last three games. Home against Tennessee, home against UMass, and home against Georgia Tech. If you watch my Georgia Tech video, I've already talked about that. Georgia Tech kind of won the turnover battle this past year. They were in this game with Georgia. And even 2 years ago when they were 3-9, whatever it was, or no. They were 5-7. They were in that game with Georgia. I think it gets closer. Georgia Tech brings back most of their team. They're a physical team. They're a tough team. They had just hired Duke's defensive coordinator. I believe that will make an immediate impact on that team. I think Georgia catches an L. The Tennessee game. The last time they lost to Tennessee, it was at home. Tennessee, he's not proven, but I think Nico will be a really good football player. He was a 5-star 2 years ago. Last year, he didn't play until the bowl game. I got Tennessee upsetting Georgia at Georgia. Look, and I don't even think Tennessee's better than Georgia, but sometimes you have the better team at home. They take on a team they've owned the last decade basically over Tennessee. And Tennessee will come to town and play really well. Everything goes their way. Everything goes against the better team. Usually the inferior team wins. I see that as a huge win, a huge feather in Josh Heupel's cap, 31-28 Tennessee. So there you have it. I got Georgia going 10-2. They missed the playoffs again. Might even miss the SEC championship. So that's pretty much it.